So here are two examples of my watercolor art poetry paintings. Some of them have words and some of them don't. This one I'm not finished yet, but I had done another video and I was practicing with this particular palette. So you can see this painting is finished, and you can just see that it's the same palette, yet I'm choosing different mark making for this one. And what I'm gonna do, I have had so many requests to walk you through my process of doing this base watercolor, letting it dry, and doing the mark making over top. And that can be really challenging for many reasons, particularly because a lot of the mixed media supplies I use don't do well over wet media. So I'm just gonna go through my practice as far as well, we'll see how far we can get, okay? So what I love to do is get down a darker color in a few places. I'm just craving this beautiful green, and I'm using my round number 12 brush. I love larger watercolor brushes. I'm gonna pull in an analogous color, so meaning a color that kind of sits beside the other color on the color wheel. They're kind of analogous. They're very similar. They're both different hues, different colors, but analogous colors. I think I have that right in terms of color theory. And right now I'm just putting down the darks. I'm putting down sort of some different shades of greens. I'm just craving green lately. Here's more of a foresty green, and I'm just gonna drop that in. I'm gonna drop some in up here as well. And then I'm gonna go straight into my beautiful pinks. Most watercolor artists would start with the lights first, but I just love to start with the darks. And it's just my process. I have tried starting with the lights first. Just doesn't go quite the way I want it. And I'm an intuitive artist, so I just kind of do what I feel in the moment. I pick colors I want in the moment. Right now I'm working out of my Ocean Paper watercolor palette. This is from Princeville, Kauai, the beautiful island, the garden island of Kauai. I believe it's the wettest place on earth. It's one of my favorite destinations for vacation. I've been there to go surfing, and I had my honeymoon there. And it's so beautiful, and I discovered their watercolors and fell in love with them. And that's what I'm using here. They sell out so fast. They just recently put some of their watercolor palettes on sale. And, well, not on sale, but they released a new collection, and I was able to get one a couple days ago, because every time I want a new palette, they just seem to be out. I like their palette because they have a lot of neutral colors, a lot of grounding colors. And what's really funny is there's something about the smell that reminds me of the garden island. I don't know why, but it's pretty neat that the smell can take me back to memories on the island. This looks like a rainbow. I love how that green is just sort of moving outward like that into a half circle. And I'm just squinting my eyes a bit, and I know I want to add in more darks. I'm gonna go back to that original darker kind of color and just throw it in there. And I lost my half moon. It's still partly there, but that's okay. It's a little bit too rainbowy in here for my liking, so I'm just gonna break that up. And I have quite a bit of water in the middle here. I'm just craving going in with a pink. I love this Kuretake Gambi, this Kuretake Kuretake paint from Japan, this pink. I really like that. So this composition, it does have a lot of water in it, so we'll see how we do. And I actually feel like the more affordable paper might be better in this case, because it will probably dry faster, because higher quality cotton paper like Arches 140 pound or 300 pound, the fibers hold the water longer and it stays more wet. There's more room to move, And right now, I just reached for another color because I get so excited. But the purpose of this video is to show you how to kind of finish a painting in a fairly fast time. And I do like to drip my work. I'm just determining how I want it to drip. I'm just gonna go straight down. There we go. And normally I don't kind of dab in the excess water, but again, because I want to show you some mark making, I want it to dry a little bit quicker. Watercolor though, isn't it forgiving that you can do this and then drop some color back in? I'm going to drop the pink back in here. I love that kind of marble look. And the less you move the watercolor around, I feel the better the final product. You just let the watercolor do its job. And I've sort of trained my eye to know what colors I like. So to be honest, I could keep going. I'm going to check my time, 6 minutes. So I'm going to do a little bit more. Maybe just this gorgeous yellow over here. Maybe a little bit over here. Okay, and we're gonna let this dry. Normally I work on 2 paintings at a time. I create swatches. It's a great way to clean your brush. If you work fast, I work really fast. Again, the challenge is I'm done this underpainting, this base watercolor, but I need it to dry in order to go over top with my mixed media elements. What I'm gonna do is grab my water-based medium Sharpie paint pen and give it a little shake. And I'm gonna slip in, without disrupting anything, my little moon. So I can get away with that while everything's drying. And I can get away with a signature, maybe not in the same place that I normally do. I can sign over here. And then I can put in my birds. And I like to put one bird on a high point, maybe right here I'm leaning towards. And I like to put one kind of with the wings open. Whether it's a bird or a butterfly, that's up to you. This is just my style and what I love, what I've practiced. I'm going to do another one without smudging up here. And then what you can do while your painting is still drying is you can take a water-soluble pencil crayon. I'm going to take this color. So this is a water-soluble crayon made in Switzerland. It's by Cairn d'Ache. I'm going to pull some of that wet watercolor up, and I'm going to use a different pencil crayon just to show you something. How this pink, I can pull out that gray and then push down, and then I get the pink. So that's just sort of a neat trick. I'm going to use a light blue next. I'm going to pull out that wet watercolor and then bring it up, and you can see the watercolor, that greenish, I don't know what color that is, a dark taupey green. I can pull that out and then bring in my other color. So we're getting close to some parts drying, which is awesome. Just looking at this piece to decide what else I can do. When it's drying, you can actually look into it and decide what colors you might want to put over top. For me, I love to add these beautiful little roses in different areas, and that's something I can do while I'm waiting for it to dry. I do love this light blue, and I can kind of decide it would look nice there. I actually am leaning towards it being up here. I'm going to push down, and it's kind of cool to see when the watercolor is wet, some of the techniques that you otherwise wouldn't get. So see how that pencil crayon, when I pushed down, it pulled the color out and it didn't leave any color. So it's almost like this whitish mark in there. It's really interesting. I'm then going to choose another pencil crayon color, maybe this beautiful dark color. There is a lot of dark down here. I could slip in a dark over here. And you can see the watercolor is still quite wet over here. There's my rose. So right now you'd be pulling out your mark making file, you know, marks that you have made recently that you love. So I'm just looking at this. I tried some new marks on here. I love the feathers. That's something I can do while I wait for my painting to dry. So looking at this, I can do some leaves. I'm gonna do a little leaf work right in here, and I may use a darker blue just so you can see it better. This is more of a purple than I'd like. I don't seem to have the color I'm looking for, so I'll go back to maybe this beautiful teal. I'm just gonna pull down and go out like a feather would. I'm gonna push down and kind of round my brush and flick up. And I love the way that color is in the wet watercolor. So that looks really beautiful. Another technique I can do in another place on here. Maybe I can do this one up here. We can do another feather, or I could have made it a leaf, whatever's easier. And I'm gonna use a different shade of green. If you've been watching my videos, you know that one of my tricks or preferences when I'm doing these feathers is to do a slightly different color on the other side, and then to put some energy into the movement, just so it's more appealing when it's a finished painting. It has that energy. So I love that. I'm dying to go in with my Posca pens, but I know that it's just still really wet, so we probably won't get there today. I can show you a few other things though. We can do these beautiful loops. So what I'm gonna do is I already have some loops here. I think what I'm gonna do is connect maybe a few more loops. So I'll do kind of 1, 2, and then 3 right over the moon. And I'm gonna make sure in my composition that if I add any more kind of half circle shapes or these loops, I'm gonna do them the opposite way, more like a rainbow, because I already have these two in here, so that's a lot. I can take my Neocolor Caran d'Ache crayons, my Neocolor 1s and 2s, and I'm gonna see if I can pull out what would happen if I did maybe this beautiful pink in this V shape. And it goes on quite well over the wet watercolor. It's very vibrant. I can see it spreading a little bit, and I do like that. Sometimes I like to add a slightly lighter color on the edge. And so this is, I suppose, like a dry on wet technique, but with water soluble materials, because these crayons, Neocolor 2s, are water soluble. I like that. I can even add a little bit more interest by maybe pulling in some of this orange on this side. And I like that. That looks great. I'm going to add some more mark making because that just seems to be the easiest thing to do. I believe this is a Neocolor 2, but we will find out. I'm going to turn my page upside down, and you know what I'm going to do is draw a half moon shape or like a rainbow. Again, it's like a technique I can get away with while my painting is drying. know if I love that. I feel like I want to go with a darker color. So maybe to add more contrast. I don't dislike it. This color I absolutely love. It's a beautiful, beautiful blue. So I'm going to add that in and decide maybe I want to add that mark in another area, but I'll make it smaller just to add interest and variety, just to move the viewer's eye around, repeating design elements, right? So I'll put it up here. The complementary color of orange is blue. They look pretty nice sitting together. Normally I wouldn't put them side by side. It can be overpowering to have complementary colors side by side, but within the same painting, they are a complement. Okay, and then I pushed down fairly hard, so I'm using my Neocolor Caran d'Ache crayons. I feel like I'm getting close to this drying. I kind of want to add in, what do I want to add in? Before I do my Posca pen, I feel like I'm really close. I'm going to take my black Posca fine tip. Just check the time, we're at 16 minutes. And I'm going to do my black dots, and they seem to be sitting on here fairly well. But when the filming is off, I will add more. I just, again, don't like people sitting through the polka dot, and I don't want to smudge it. So you can see I've smudged it a little bit there, but it looks good with this painting, the way those little dots kind of smudged. I always do a few larger dots. You know, you could use a hairdryer to speed up the process, but that's not my style. I paint for the enjoyment, for the meditative aspect. And I just realized I'm going to take, this is becoming a very bright painting, and that's okay. Just going to decide what color. Here we go. So I'm going to do a wet on wet technique where I just add in this beautiful flower over top of this area, kind of going outside of it a bit. And I'm trying to keep my hand loose so I don't smudge the other part. And so this is a really cool technique you can do while your painting is still quite wet. There we go. And I am going to go back and do my white dots. I'm going to do some dot work through the middle here. And again, it's super wet under my hand. So I won't be doing too many videos like this because of that wet. It's just too hard to dry it while filming all in one session. I'm not I don't edit my videos at all because I have a really busy family life. And so I just fit them in when I can, sort of the same way as I fit in my painting practice. I just fit it in when I can, and I do my best to produce good videos without editing. We all spend so much time editing and, you know, competing for social media, or at least, you know, the world I've been in with Instagram and whatnot. And I don't really want to play into that too much. I want to enjoy my days, and I value my time. So I'm going to see if you can add, there's a bit of shimmer in this iced rose gelato. I can kind of add a little bit in here while my painting's still wet. Get really interesting texture. I'm going to add some color over here. Maybe, I can't go wrong with like this beautiful peachy color, guava. I love this color. I'm going to go over where I smudged some of my polka dots, and I'm just going to rub it around, and it's picking up some of the black, and that's okay. It looks interesting. So I'm going to go with the smudging of the black. So that's a happy accident. Looks kind of cool. And we're coming up to finishing this painting. What I love to do, I'm gonna have to change out my water, but I'm gonna steal some clean water from my spray bottle here, and I'm just gonna kind of clean up the edges of the page. And this is the point in time where you've added most of your mark making, and you can go in with more watercolor, because with watercolor you can layer, which is amazing. So if I decided that I want more color in a certain area, I can just go right back in. So this is very, very bright. If I was to write words with this, because I do, this is my painting that I had titled Remember Your Breath. That got cut off, but I would title this There Are Brighter Days Ahead, because I love the brights in here. I'm gonna take my brush and I'm just gonna move this Neocolor crayon. I'm gonna just smudge it a bit so it blends in. I love that. And I'm gonna pull that same color, maybe just down here, a little bit over the moon. And I can even add it back in another area, maybe up here. And I would say this is pretty much finished, with the exception of the odd. I could go back in and add so many beautiful marks once it's fully dry. Just seeing if there's anything else. I think I'm gonna call it here. So this is an example of my art poetry painting with a watercolor background. You can just do watercolor swatches. So, you know, I was doing a palette the other day, and you could just take swatches and go over top with your favorite paint supplies, and, you know, find some marks that you love and just play. You know, so in this area, just, you know, I love these leaf shapes. I love this gray on the orange. Maybe you want to put some writing across one. You know, and then one day you can come back and be like, oh, I forgot I did this. I'd love to add maybe words in my art, or, you know, I love this slate gray Posca pen on top of this orange, or I love these neons. I forgot to blend these beautiful gelatos, but, you know, just, oh, and it's actually really hard once they're dry. That's interesting. Harder to blend. But, you know, you can just go back to these pages and you can create a whole new painting out of this. And if you don't like it, you can cut it up, or you can paint over it with acrylic paint. So many ideas. So I'm gonna leave you with that, and thank you to the person that had commented and challenged me to do the whole painting before it was fully dry. This was a really neat experience. I would repeat some of the marks, actually. I really like these blue marks, and I like how they sort of bled out into the water. I love how I could blend in a rainbow and these little V shapes. And, you know, the feathers were kind of fun too. So this was just a really great exercise, and it shows that art can be done fairly fast. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye now.